Welcome, everybody, to the PCS Spring Split Review Show. If you guys are just tuning on in for the start of playoffs, myself, Opal, and Riku from the English broadcast team kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of a hot fix regarding the happenings of the PCS and get you guys a little bit prepped for that playoff race.
Yes, I mean, we're done with 8 weeks of the regular season, 3 days per weekend, and I actually cannot believe we're already on towards the playoffs this weekend.
Yeah, we've had 90 regular season games, and we can add on an extra 2 of tiebreakers, so it comes to 92 games played in the PCS Spring Split. Of course, we're running a double round robin with 10 teams, so you take a look at this, there is a much bigger amount of games when you compare to previous years of, say, the LST for a lot of these Southeast Asian teams.
Yep, definitely. So this is going to be a new challenge for them. Again, it's, the legends back at it again together in one region. So I'm very happy to see the former LST teams and the former LMS teams just duke it out in the PCS.
Well, and if you guys were not able to catch any of the regular season, let's kind of give you a quick heads up of how the rankings ended. At the top, it was Machi, kind of surprising everybody up there. And then we have, of course, AHQ, a very well-known team if you are a casual fan when it comes to the former LMS region. And then new on the block, it was Talent Esports rounding out our top 3.
And our fourth, we have the Berjaya Dragons representing Malaysia. It's a Malaysian-based organization. They're also very new to League of Legends. But again, another pleasant surprise since a lot of the broadcast talents placed them below 5th. And on the other hand, we have Alpha Esports, such an amazing team to watch. They're just very entertaining, and now we see Nova Esports as well at 6th. So a lot of the Thailand fans are very happy to see, their representative make it to playoffs.
And you might be also seeing there J-Team and Hong Kong Attitude, 2 representatives when it came to the LMS last year at the World Championship, were on the bubble when it came to playoffs. They were actually almost knocked out of there by Resurgence and Liab, and it came down to those 2 tiebreakers at the very end of our Spring Split that ended up pushing them into playoffs.
That's true, and as a fan from the Philippines, it has been an emotional ride for the last few weeks, considering, just as you mentioned, Liab had to fight and HKA had to fight for that last spot last weekend. And now we have HKA joining that last spot for the playoffs.
Well, with that, it's all about these teams. Well, on those teams, of course, are our players. So we want to go ahead and highlight some of our stats from the PCS. And we're going to start things off with who had the most kills when it came to the Spring Split. And at the top, it's with 86, Bruce or Machi.
Yeah, Bruce right now has the highest kill participation in Machi itself, and he served as the pillar at the bot side of the map no matter what. And on the other hand, we do see Catjug, who is definitely one of the only in the jungler at the top 5 of the killer ranking, and it really showed either on his Lee Sin, sometimes on Echo, and maybe even that Olaf with that, never forget that Infinity Edge, that crit build from Catjug.
Yeah, if you're an Alpha fan, I think you actually wish to remember that game, as that was unfortunately like one game where they threw away a 12,000 gold lead. But other highlights too, like you mentioned from the Philippines, Liab, Exosin sitting in 4th with 76.
Very nice to see, considering Exosin has been in the mid lane for 4 years and he moved to the bot lane, so seeing him perform as an AD carry again is just very nostalgic.
And with kills always comes assists, and why not pair your top-ranking kill leader with the top-ranking assist leader, and that's going to be Koala in the bot lane as well of Machi.
And it's just perfect. It's admirable to see Koala juggle, being at the bot side with Bruce and at the same time pairing it up with Gemini, considering there's only a 0.2 difference with their kill participation, so you can see how active he is in the early game and throughout the whole game.
And on top of that, too, you can also highlight from Nova. Pop, once again, he had a great showing when it came to last year's LST, still ranking up the assist leaderboard, currently in 5th with 142.
Very true. And I also want to compliment Isera's Thresh, who has been the bane, especially of Liab, who couldn't really handle a lot of these precise Thresh hooks from Isera.
Yes, Ysera had a great split, and you also saw that he was paired with Waco, so I'm loving that. Both of our, top team as well as second place team all paired together when it comes to kills and assists, but KDA's is a little bit of a different story, where AHQ dominate with Uniboy in the mid lane, almost sitting at 11 KDA.
I truly admire Uniboy's place in the team, considering he has been very flexible, whether he's just so amazing on his skill shots and his bubbles with the Zoe, or perhaps maybe on the Kalista, which was the very first in the mid lane. And sometimes he would even go back to like utility a little bit and go for the Galio. So you see how versatile this player is, not in terms of the champion pool, but also in terms of adjusting for the team.
Yeah, because even at, I believe it was the beginning of Week 3, Uniboy internationally had the highest KDA when it came to Tier 1 League of Legends. He was sitting at somewhere along the lines of a 32 KDA, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that he was able to hold on to a 10.8 at the very end of the split, that's playing 18 games, really just shows the caliber of player that you're pairing with Kong. And let's take
Definitely
a look
insane.
over toward our CS per minute. Of course, who else would it be when it comes to the farm game? It's of course going to be our 80 carries in the bot lane, as K2 actually from Berjaya almost hitting that sweet 10 CS per minute.
What I really love about K2 is how he's so confident when it comes to these as the tournament progresses. And, he's the 80 carry that really favors Ezreal a lot. And at the same time, he can hold his own in the lane and even scare off like the top of the charts, like Bruce. Along with him is Chili. And if the pick permits it, they can go aggressive.
And, some signs of hope there also for, say, Resurgence. So as you see in third, that's Mexi from the bot lane of the team, where Resurgence had a very rough split. The first half of the regular season, they only won one game in their first round robin and started to really accelerate. So the fact that Mexi was actually able to maintain his CS and stay, even in the lane phase where everything else for Resurgence is kind of falling down is a really good sign heading toward the summer split. Let's take a look toward our damage per minute, though. And it's going to be K2 again, always being that stable pillar in the bot lane for Berjaya.
Yeah, and I think it has something to do with how he can hold his own, not having to, for example, having to rely on Enzo to create all of these opportunities on the bot side of the map. It's one of those things where Chili and him will definitely be enough. And it's always so nice to see, especially with the Ezreal and Nautilus combo that they seem to really favor in the tournament.
And then you can also see, some highlighted players there of the bloodthirsty nature of Kurd and Assassin, both solo laners that love to get down and dirty and try and dive underneath towers and try and get ahead in the lane.
Yeah, considering that, again, their pool is mostly for that carry, and once you see Assassin perform, especially on the Lee Sin, he really shines so bright. Kurd, in the meantime, had his debut game in the PCS, just stomping everybody else with that Fiora.
And then we can take a look toward our MVP totals. And sitting at the top, it was actually a three-way tie with 5 MVPs apiece. It's going to be Mission from the mid lane of Machi, Uniboy mid lane of HQ, but then Catjug in the jungle from Alpha.
Yeah, it's quite different considering, again, you have Mission and Uniboy coming from mid, but then out of nowhere you have Catjug in the jungle. He has really shined bright in towards these games for Alpha Esports, and again, his champion pool has been very interesting considering in terms of draft, he would always leave they would always leave him for last into the pickings for either a counter to see how the game is going to progress.
And you got to realize how ridiculous that number is just for Catjug alone, because you consider Alpha only won 7 to 8 games. 5 out of the 7 games, the MVP was Catjug being the carry for the team for those wins.
And that's the reason why you see Machi just respect banning most of Catjug's primary carries on the jungle.
And now we wanted to take a look toward the individual lanes when it came to the PCS and highlight our top players in each role. And we're going to start things off with top lane, Ozzy from Berjaya.
Yeah, the Berjaya Dragons, again, were a complete mystery coming into the PCS, and alongside that, we got Ozzy, who has a ton of ECS experience, but has been quite low-key during the first few games of the Dragons in the PCS. But after a while, you can see him shine, not only, in the Renekton pick, but also in the Mordekaiser pick. So in terms of flexibility and what he can offer for the team is just quite interesting.
Yeah, he had a bloodthirsty Mordekaiser in many of these games, and often was able to draw bans onto the champion, which freed up other picks for the rest of the map, and he's now become a bit of just another solo threat when it comes to Berjaya's lineup.
That's true. And now we're taking a look at this clip, and I believe out of all the Mordekaisers we've seen, this is the most monstrous.
Yeah, it was something like a 16-0-4. Let's take a look, though, toward Jungle, and I have some reservations regarding this pick, but for Gemini, for Machi, he was clutch when the team needed him to be.
Indeed, and the thing is, for Gemini, during the first few performances of Machi Esports, we didn't really get to see Gemini perform at his best, and therefore now that we've seen all the games from Machi, he did really improve exponentially, and definitely you pair that up with Koala, and they've been very, very strong, creating opportunities for Machi Esports earlier on.
Yeah, and also being able to secure some objectives. There were times where Gemini would miss a smite or two, and it has hurt Machi, but he was always able to come in clutch when they needed him to be, especially during late game fights like this.
Indeed, and it has been really one of those things that ruin the tempo of, some of these teams, considering, again, you see Liab having to run for the hills after getting that Baron stolen away from them.
And not being afraid to just go ahead and finish off kills with little hesitation there, as he's able to clean up Exozen and Hames. So Gemini, always a player you want to watch when it comes to the jungle. Shifting toward mid lane, though, we have Uniboy, and we already talked about his ridiculous KDA when it came to the Spring Split. Him paired alongside Kongyu was a massive threat for AHQ.
Yeah, at the beginning of the split, AHQ was undefeated and they seemed like gods at that time. And for Uniboy, after his, monstrous KDA, he still managed to pick up the pieces and be very versatile. Depending on what the team needed, he can play it. Maybe a Zoe, he has you. If a Rumble or a Galio, even a Kalista for the very first time in the mid lane.
Yeah, we got to see him actually on this clip right here where he actually picked up the Kalista, and that was a bit of a soft curveball thrown at us when it came to the draft, considering we also saw the Syndra being locked in, but not afraid to try out some new picks and try and, spice up the meta even with AHQ.
And the thing is, during the initial games that we've seen Uniboy perform, a lot of the teams really had a hard time catching him, and therefore would end the game with 0 deaths.
Yeah, Uniboy often went deathless when it came to his mid lane performances. So that Kalista, and also like we mentioned, that Rumble Zoe, always a threat and always something to watch out when it comes to the draft. Shifting toward bot lane, though, we've already talked about a lot of Bruce, always that stable pillar in bot lane for Bachi.
Again, highest kill participation for the entirety of Machi Esports. So Bruce has been always that reliable AD carry and has been performing out of his mind. So Bruce is just definitely one of the players to watch coming into this really scary team who's currently 13 at a 13 win streak at the moment.
Yeah, and they're looking to extend that to possibly a 15 win streak or a 16 win streak when it comes to playoffs later this weekend. But oftentimes his Ezreal was kind of the highlight that we got to watch during the games of Machi, and I think will always be a possible ban threat when it comes to the draft.
Yeah, in terms of positioning, Bruce is just really spot on. Therefore, not a lot would actually try to threaten him, and the free hits are definitely free for Bruce when it comes to the team fights.
Yeah, and not afraid to get those long-range true shot barrage to connect onto their targets. So Bruce, always someone to watch out for when it comes to the bot lane. But with the bot lane, there's always that support. And for Talon Esports, it was Kaiwing that we wanted to take a look at.
Yeah, Kaiwing has definitely an interesting pool when it comes to support. And again, very, very reliable when it comes for Talon, not only roaming with the jungler, but also for mid lane as well. So for Kaiwing, and then as well, paired with Unified, he's definitely very, very scary in the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, because you got to think about the Talon bot lane as that duo that they are. They came over from Hong Kong Attitude at the start of the split, have that international experience. And Kaiwing, especially on that Bard, not afraid to make the ultimates count when they need to and keep Unified safe, where he ended up getting the only pentakill of the Spring Split.
Yeah, definitely. Considering that, again, we see that Kaiwing is one of the talented players that play Bard currently at 100% and enabled a lot of these combos, either the bullet time or perhaps even an Ornhorn, and really well-placed Tempered Fates, and again, enabled the very first and only pentakill for Unified.
Yeah, and so with that, that is our highlights when it comes to our individual players. And Riku, there's obviously other players you would love to take a look at. Who didn't make this list that you would always want to shout out to?
I would definitely would like to shout out to Dodoy, the jungler of Liab, and for sure a lot of the fans still from home, from here in the Philippines, are definitely proud still of how far Liab has come, considering the many challenges that Liab had to face. And he's been really, really great, especially when he's paired with Herd at the top side of the map. Really enabled some of these successful wins in the PCS for this Philippine squad.
Yeah, I'd like to also maybe give a shout out over there toward Hanabi from Talon Esports. He also had himself a bit coming out of form at the beginning of Split, but then came back into it, especially toward the mid part and toward the end of Talon Spring Split, where I thought he was really starting to shine and really come online with a lot of the compositions that Talon were trying to pull off, even during that little bit of a drought that they had in the mid section of the Split.
Yeah, agreed. A lot of I believe the top laners are either on and off, so it's really nice to see them shine at the latter parts of the Split.
And now you're probably interested, well, what were these players often playing, or what was being banned away nonstop during the PCS? And don't worry, we have it for you. As far as bans go, obviously the Aphelios and the Senna, if you're on red side, you pretty much banned it 24/7. Unlike other regions, the Aphelios rarely made it out of the first ban phase when it came to the picks.
Yeah, only during the latter stages of the regular season has Aphelios been enabled or being left out of the draft to be open. And I think it's two things. Either, it's one of those things where because of the patch, Aphelios has been nerfed at patch 10.6, or perhaps it's one of those things where the players have already this pocket pick, which is the mages in the bot side of the map, which will be automatically picked once the Aphelios is on the opposite side.
Yeah, because when you come overall to presence, when it is in our draft regarding the PCS, Aphelios pretty much, I think, only wasn't picked or banned once or twice overall when it came to our Spring Split. So that's why you see I'm currently sitting at that 93.3% pick. On top of that, too, I find it interesting that Misfortune became such a heavy priority for a lot of our teams.
Very true. Considering at the first few weeks of the PCS, it has always been that sort of combo, or as actually very easily comboed into anything, either on the Jarvan Cataclysm or perhaps the Tempered Fates that we've seen on the Bard. Misfortune has been very, very reliable when it comes to the late game, which I believe some of the teams have a hard time closing off.
Yeah, but there was often the picks that were gone against him. We often saw that set usually countered with into the Misfortune rather immediately when it came to the draft. So again, I think as far as the PCS stands the whole compared to other regions, we still are being really hesitant when it comes to letting through those solo queue monsters like the Aphelios and even possibly that Wukong, which we might see later on in playoffs. But we mentioned Bard quite a bit. Well, it's because it had a 100% win rate when it came to the PCS. It was kind of the flavor of the region.
Yeah, we did mention that how the Tempered Fates, key Tempered Fates, to be specific, that has been that enabler for the Wombo combos. Either Tempered Fate into a Bullet Time or a Glacial Prison or perhaps a Cataclysm. It just works really, really well, and it's a good counter to aggressive teams who like to dive as well.
And you can understand also why we saw so much jungle priority in our drafts, because oftentimes that Rek'Sai was the key component for a lot of our top team's success.
Yep, and on the mid lane though, we did see, the Syndra being very often picked, especially, Zoe has been quite the popular pick at the first few weeks. And of course, you see the Elise always banned, definitely most of the time, considering it has created so much impact, especially to teams that like to play top side. So early dives has been sort of the bane of these former LMS squads.
Yeah, so now those are pretty much all our stats from the regular season. And of course, now we have to move toward our playoffs. And our playoffs are going to be starting this weekend, and we have a little bit of a change up when it comes to our format. We are going to be doing a double elimination bracket with 8 of our teams. So only 2 teams from the regular season actually didn't make it on through, and that was, of course, Liab and Resurgence. And the teams got seeded into, of course, the particular order. And let's go ahead and take a look toward that bracket. Now, starting Friday, we're going to have our first 2 matches of our playoffs, being Berjaya taking on Alpha first, and then we're going to look toward Talon versus Nova. And then on Saturday, Sunday, we're going to have our best of 5s of the upper bracket, where the winners of U1 will go up against Machi, and then U2 winners will go up against AHQ.
Yep, and meanwhile, the losers for U1 and U2 will fall downward. So J-Team and HKA will have to wait for this Friday to see who will be their opponents in the lower bracket.
Yeah, and that all starts this weekend. And you guys be sure to tune on in, either here on whatever platform you're watching this on right now, whether that be Twitch, YouTube, possibly even Facebook. Be sure to follow the pages for the PCS so you guys can keep up to date with everything happening within the league, and you guys can catch all the action starting this Friday. And of course, if you guys want to keep up with us individually, just be sure to follow our Twitters below. We guys will keep you guys up to date with everything regarding the PCS. For now, though, thank you guys for tuning on in, and we're looking forward to the playoffs, and we hope you are equally excited as we are, and we'll see you soon.